North Korea fired yet another ballistic missile off its eastern coast this week. That's the 13th test so far this year. That's already more than the tests conducted last year or in 2020. And among those tests included an intercontinental ballistic missile similar to this one North Korea displayed at a military parade last month. It's clear Kim Jong Un wants to show off his arsenal. South Korea, Japan, and the United States responded in strong terms to the latest test.
The threat from North Korea continues to increase because they continue to test, because they continue to learn, because they continue to adapt their program. It would be foolish not to assess that the threat they're posing is actually increasing over time.
North Korea's recent remarkable development of nuclear missile-related technologies is not only unacceptable for the security of Japan and the region, but North Korea's slew of actions, including its repeated launches of ballistic missiles, threaten the peace and security of our country, region, and the international community. They are absolutely unacceptable. Our military is maintaining a full readiness posture by tracking and monitoring related movements for possible additional launches.
Joining us is Do-Yeon Kim of the Center for a New American Security. Do-Yeon, I guess the first question is, why is North Korea testing so many more missiles now?
Well, thanks again for having me on your show, Melissa. So, Kim Jong Un has made it clear that he wants to make all these fancy weapons and missiles that he ordered his people to make last year. And so they are basically trying to, his country, his people are trying to, achieve his goals, his military goals. And so there's a clear domestic motivation for North Korea to continue to test them, because the more you test, the better they get at these weapons. And so missile tests failing is actually not failure. It actually helps a country know how to refine their technology. And so I think that's a key driver. Now, and I think it really does not matter what Washington does or does not do at this point. I think they're really hard set on achieving certain milestones when it comes to their technological advancements of the nuclear weapons.
Now, over the last 2 months, we've seen how much impunity a nuclear state has if it decides to be an aggressor. Of course, I'm speaking from Berlin. Countries feel unable, essentially, to join Ukraine in actual battle because Russia is a nuclear state. I wonder about that. Can you talk about North Korea as a nuclear power and what that really means for the region?
So, this is a good question that many of us are continuing to debate and try to unpack and analyze and assess. I don't think there are clear-cut answers yet, but I think on the one hand, North Korea sees what's happening in Ukraine, sees the international response or the lack of a military response to Russia's invasion. And so perhaps this just confirms to Kim Jong Un that he needs to hold on to his nuclear weapons tighter than ever. But on the other hand, if these comparisons are not exact or perfect, but there is a difference between Ukraine versus South Korea and Japan being the United States ally and treaty ally. And so if a big power like the United States has an obligation to defend and protect its allies, then there is no question that the United States would do anything it can and will to defend its allies. And so there is a bit of a difference there in terms of if we try to compare. And so these are, good questions, but I really think in the grand scheme of things, North Korea is probably thinking that it better hang on to its weapons, not give it up easily, or even if it's to put a cap on its programs. I think he will try to negotiate for a much higher price tag for even just to press the pause button on his nuclear weapons developments.
Right. And so next week, we have Yoon Suk-yeol taking office as the new president of South Korea. Tell us a little bit about him and whether the missiles have anything to do with the new president.
So everyone is expecting, and I'm sure North Korea as well, that with a conservative South Korean administration, South Korea will be tougher than a progressive administration in the sense that they will demand tit for tat and have a more principled approach to engagement and not give away freebies just to try to butter North Korea up or to try to satisfy North Korea. And so that in that sense, North Korea knows fully well that and is probably expecting the upcoming Yoon-Biden alliance to be tougher towards it. And less flexible. So in that sense, I would not be surprised if some of these missile activities are, in preparation for North Korea gearing up for hardening its own position towards the Yoon and Biden administrations. And so, I think in the short and mid-term, we actually may see some escalation of tensions going forward. But we should remember that both the Biden administration and the incoming administration have both made it clear that they are open to diplomacy and dialogue.
Joo-young Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Meanwhile, inside North Korea, well, to the best of our abilities, since it's so difficult to get a sense of what's happening there, but in the capital of Pyongyang, Kim Jong Un has been intent on constructing high-rise apartment buildings. He wants 50,000 new units, and they look pretty impressive until you take a closer look.
High-rise buildings, usually a symbol of wealth and status for the rich, except in North Korea, they are anything but. Here, skyscrapers are getting taller and taller, with the latest even reaching 80 stories high. Only the least fortunate would find themselves living on the top floors, though, a North Korean defector says. A friend of mine lives on the 28th floor of a 40-story building. He told me that he has never used a lift since he was born because even if there's a lift, it wasn't working. In addition to that, the buildings often fail to pump water to flats located so high in the sky. That's made them undesirable, no matter how passionate the public seem to be on state television. They're cheering about the recently built new flats. Pyongyang says there are altogether 10,000 of them. Daily NK, a Seoul-based media, says according to their sources, those flats are not ready to live in. I think it's a strategy to give a hope, even if it's in vain hope. If you trust our leader, it can lead to glory together. While the state officially assigns housing to the people, experts say real estate trading has become more common under the leadership of Kim Jong Un, giving the rich the option to choose their homes. So, where do they live? Houses for core and loyal classes are in the Pongtong River Terrace area. It's also a place where the state-run television announcer Ri Chun-hee moved in, and everything is provided there. The famous TV anchor was among a group of elites who just moved into a new housing cluster. Pictures from state media show that leader Kim Jong Un even came to the inauguration. Every single building here was low-rise.